Hey, welcome to the Pantry Essentials Guide walkthrough. This is going to be your toolkit for your best shopping experience and meal prep and planning experience. I created this meal or this Pantry Essentials Guide because a lot of my clients were struggling to figure out what exactly to buy at the grocery store or how to navigate like protein versus carbs versus fats and like all this kind of thing. And so I wanted to create this to just give my clients a better experience. So this is a Pantry Essential Guide. If you want to pull it up right now, you can, or if you want to take notes, I would definitely recommend it. Obviously, you can always come back to this recording. But if you're in the planning stages of meal prepping for this week or about to go to the grocery store and want to figure out what you need to buy, then this will be a really good way to take notes and basically just plan out while we are going through this. So um, the easiest thing that I usually always tell my clients is that first of all, this is called the Pantry's Essentials Guide, but I don't have all of these things in my pantry all of the time. It's just something that I think can be basically like a basis of like what you can stock your pantry with if you do have extra money to spare in a week to add like maybe one or two things extra to your order so that you can have it for a long amount of time. So usually, I say this here, but usually like my produce and a lot of the meat and protein that I get, it's on a weekly basis. Sometimes we have like extra stuff in the freezer, like frozen vegetables, frozen fruit, and frozen meat so that like I can just pull that out and I don't need to go buy some of that stuff. So that's super helpful, especially because like that it does happen because we do buy in bulk. Um, just because it's easier for me and Brandon because we both eat a significant amount of food. So it can go pretty fast. But like the things that go in the pantry, things that will last longer are things like those beans, or sorry, those nuts, the beans that are in the cans, um, flours, baking goods, if you like baking, like the vegetable pastas, rices. I'm trying to think of what's in my pantry right now. Sushi, nori wraps, those are really good, and usually I stock up on those. Um, Different, I'm trying to think, spices. So some of those things are something that obviously you won't go through it in an entire week, and you could just like stock up on them. And I'll go through more examples as we go through this, but here we go. So the first thing I have in here is nuts and seeds. I want to say that this is not always the first thing that you should be going to when you are walking into the grocery store. How I approach it is I honestly like do start at the perimeter and then I go into the aisles because the perimeter is where I'm going to find a lot of those fresh foods, sometimes frozen foods, depending on what store you're at. Um, and this is definitely a general store, not like a Costco or a Sam's Club. But anyway, you walk in and you're immediately at the produce. So you pick your produce first, and then you walk around and you're going into the meat section and the protein section, and then you go through like the dairy section where you find your eggs and Greek yogurts and things like that. So that's how I like to start is really like upon entering the store, I'm like, okay, what produce do I need? I'm right here. It's all laid out for me. I'm going to start here and then I'll work my way around. And then if there's more things that I need or if there's something that I want, then I'll go into the aisles and I'll start going through the aisles depending on what's offered in each aisle. And I think that this makes it a lot easier. That way, you're not just like roaming around the grocery store trying to figure out what's in there. What do you need? It's like, okay, like you have a set plan, you have basically a roadmap going into the grocery store. Um, the other thing is if like Instacart is a huge time saver and something that I would definitely recommend looking into. So like Instacart, obviously like online ordering for individual stores is going to be super awesome in helping you save money and figure out like basically you've already got your list, you know what you need. And you can just order those things right away. You don't have to like spend time going to the store, figuring out what you need, checking out, leaving. Like you do it all in the comfort of your own home. So that's going to be something that could be like a time saver for a lot of people. But anyway, when we're planning out our week of grocery shopping and meal planning, what I like to do first and foremost, like the simplest thing that you can do is basically pick 3 proteins, pick 1 or 2 carb sources, maybe 3, 3 vegetables, and then like 1 to 2, at most 3 fats. And the reason is because generally you eat 3 meals in a day, so each meal is going to have 1 protein, 1 carb, 1 fat, depending on how you're laying out your day of nutrition. So that can change based on some other things, but like a general rule of thumb. And then 1 vegetable at each meal. Or sometimes like people like to do rotating diets, and what that is going to involve is basically you're eating 1 protein the entire day, and then 1 carb the whole day, 1 fat the whole day, 1 vegetable the whole day, and then the next day you're doing another one, the next day you're doing the third one, and then the fourth day you're going back to the first one. So that's like the simplest way that you can do it. If you don't like that simplicity or you don't like eating that way, then what I would suggest to you is sitting down and figuring out what your breakfast is, what your lunch is, what your dinner is, and then writing down all of the ingredients that you're going to need for all 3 of those meals, and then write down like maybe 1 or 2 snacks that you might want in between those meals if you need it. And then, so that's still like planning out beforehand. So like if you want to do different dinners every day, make sure you're like, okay, this is the recipe for this dinner. I know I need this much, for this many servings. So I need to buy this smaller packet compared to this larger packet. And then, really like honestly getting down to the nitty gritty before you get to the store so that you're not wandering, so that you're not spending tons of time in the grocery store, and then that way you're not over or under buying. Honestly, I would say from my personal experience, it's better to overbuy and then freeze than it is to underbuy and have to go back to the grocery store, because that is super aggravating, and nobody likes to yeah, so nobody likes going back to the grocery store, especially when your schedule is super busy. So those are my 2 really main tips going into your week of planning, and like before you even get to the grocery store, is making sure that you have it planned out this way, so that you know what you're getting, you know how much you need to get, roughly how much it's going to cost you. And then if you do have extra money, like I said, you can stock up on some things if you need it. So let's get into what I've got on here. So the nuts and the seeds are going to be a source of fat. I've got quite a few on here that are listed out, and each one of them are going to bring different benefits. For example, Brazil nuts, if you eat like 1 to 2 a day, it's going to give you your daily recommended dose of selenium, which is super important for thyroid function, which basically controls like everything in your body. So like if you feel like you have a slow metabolism, it might be because of your thyroid. So getting the Brazil nuts is like a really good natural way to support your body without having to go and buy supplements and all that kind of stuff. And it's also a good source of fat. Coconuts are amazing. They're so delicious. You can literally make anything out of them. You can do coconut water. You can get the coconut milk. You can scrape inside and get the coconut meat. Obviously, like you can buy all of those things separately, but doing it yourself is kind of cool if you're like one of those people who like to do that on your own. And I think it just adds a lot of flavor to different meals. So that's a really good one. As a female, if you've never heard of seed cycling, that's kind of where you take 2 different seeds in the first 2 weeks of your cycle, and then 2 other seeds in the second 2 weeks of your cycle. So like the second half of your cycle, the luteal phase, and you just eat those two seeds every day, like a tablespoon of each ground. And it's supposed to help you regulate your hormones because they have properties that support estrogen and progesterone. So one of those things is pumpkin seeds, also sesame seed. So that's huge, but the other benefit is like pumpkin seeds taste good just in and of themselves, but like ground pumpkin, oh man, they're so amazing. Like I'll ground them up and I'll put them on my eggs in the morning, and it just gives it like this different flavor profile that you wouldn't normally get with just eating eggs. So these nuts and seeds are something that I would highly suggest you like getting maybe like one this week and then another one the next week. And don't like the goal isn't to go through them all in that whole week. Like most grocery stores sell enough where like it's gonna last you a long time. Or like if you're going to Whole Foods, you can adjust the amount that you're getting with the do it yourself. And so I really like doing that, putting them in a mason jar, some sort of glass jar, and then basically like collecting them, if you will. So over time, I can make my own granolas. I can do different flavor profiles. I can make my own almond milk, or I can just enjoy different seeds on different days, or seeds or nuts on different days of the week. So I'm not always eating the same thing over and over and over again. So this is like how I would kind of look at this section. Again, nuts and seeds are going to be really high in fats. So that's going to be like, those are going to be really good fats for you. They do also have some carbs and some protein. So if you're considering all of those things, like it has a pretty good macronutrient profile, but honestly, like I think the benefit is in the micronutrient profile for these. The next thing is going to be oils and smoke points. So I've basically got a list of all of the top oils that you should be consuming. Basically, like there's some that aren't on here that are okay to consume, but honestly, if it's not on this list, I would highly suggest staying away from it. So like those hydrogenated oils, vegetable oils, canola oil, all of those things are going to be full of omega-6s, processed at a super high temperature with a lot of different chemicals. And those things are just disaster for the body. It's going to cause a lot of inflammation. And it's honestly just not worth it. So I know that these oils could tend to be more expensive than those cheaper oils, the hydrogenated vegetable oils, but it's honestly for a reason. It's because these are processed in a way where it leaves the chemical structure of the oil intact so that your body can actually process it and use it, because our bodies, every single cell in our body, it has an outer layer of fat, and the place that we get that fat is from the fats in our diet. So if you want your cells to be made up of high quality fat that will allow for the correct nutrients to get into your body, and so that you don't have inflammation all over your body, which if you have inflammation in your body, obviously inflammation is a normal thing. It happens for a reason, but we don't want it to be chronic. When it becomes chronic, that's when fat starts to surround inflammation. So, like if you lose inflammation, you'll notice that you look leaner because the fat that's surrounding the inflammation is now gone. It doesn't have to be there anymore because it doesn't have to protect you from the inflammation anymore, which is basically how the body works. So anyway, I've listed these kind of in order of smoke points, and basically what that means is these are the temperatures to which you can safely cook these oils at a temperature so that it cooks properly and it doesn't break down. Now I will say in the last few years, avocado oil has been coming out where a lot of them have been rancid. So you do need to look into your sourcing. But like generally it's safe. Extra virgin olive oil, There's one, I think I listed it down at the very end of this guide, but it's like you can get it on Amazon. It's this green, let me see if I can find it. I can never remember the name of it, but it's like probably one of the most inexpensive extra virgin olive oils, and it's super high quality. Um, but if it is a high enough quality extra virgin olive oil, you actually should be able to cook with it. I wouldn't go crazy and like go high heat on it, but like if you're cooking something on low or medium heat, then it should be fine. Sorry, I'm trying to find this. I know it's in here. Shoot. Oh, here it is. Okay, so La Torangel. Here, I'm going to show you a picture of it. So this is a picture of the really good extra virgin olive oil that you can buy on Amazon. It might be in some of the stores near you. But yeah, that's a really good one. Coconut oil. That one and butter are probably going to be two of the really good ones to be able to cook in like the air fryer or at higher temperatures. I know it says 350 on here. Versus like the 410 extra virgin olive oil. Again, that really depends on the quality of the extra virgin olive oil. Macadamia nut oil is really tasty. It's really good to put on like salads or as a dressing on top. Wouldn't recommend cooking with it. Sesame oil, honestly, it does depend on the quality as well. But that's going to be a really good one if you like the Asian flavor. So I like to add this to when I'm making like miracle noodles or if I'm making a fried rice. Usually I don't add it until after I'm done. I don't cook with it. I'll cook with like butter or something like that. MCT oil, I wouldn't recommend cooking with it. It's a good one to like add on top of things. I know a lot of people are adding this to coffees. That should be okay from my understanding. But then it's also going to be a really good one for like a quick hit of energy, or if you're basically doing like a fat-based diet and you're an athlete and you need something as like an intra workout, this one is a really good thing to have. Hemp seed oil is also really good. It's going to give you like a nice rich flavor. But again, like I wouldn't recommend cooking with it. So yeah, usually oils, like a serving is 1 tablespoon, and usually like every gram is basically like 1 gram of fat. So like if you're doing a tablespoon, that's like roughly 14 or 15 grams of fat if you want to look at it from a macronutrient perspective. Then I have other fats listed. A lot of these are animal-based fats. So I put grass-fed. You should also look for grass finish and pasture raised, PASTURE, pasture raised. So lard and ghee are actually really good. Ghee is like clarified butter, which means the way that it's processed is just slightly different than butter. So there's not as many, or like if any, of those like lactose molecules, if there is any left in the butter. If you're getting like a pasture raised, like grass-fed, grass-finished butter, then it should be like very similar. You shouldn't have any, like a lot of issues. But if you do, like ghee is a good one to turn to. Lard is also good from like a high quality source, grass-fed, grass-finished. Tallow, that's going to be basically like the fat that comes off of like meat and stuff like that. And bone, I want to say, like I'm pretty sure it's made from bone marrow. I think so. Yeah, and bone marrow is going to be super good for you, good for your bones. A really high quality fat right there, and it gives like the food that you're cooking like a really unique texture, or not texture, unique flavor. Duck fat is honestly like one of my favorite ones. I don't buy it too often just because I can't really find it in stores lately. There is a really good brand, Epic, that I actually don't think that I listed down below. But that one is a really good one. It gives meat just this like really, really good flavor. It's really hard to describe, but yeah, I would highly suggest trying it at least once. You could also do bacon fat. So if you're using like a heritage breed pork bacon, something like from US Wellness Meats or Butcher Box, then after you cook it, I would highly suggest saving that fat because then you don't have to go out and buy a fat. And it's just like solid. You can leave it and use it over and over again. Coconut, again, I know that I listed this above, but this is like coconut milk, coconut cream, coconut yogurt, are all going to be, I would suggest looking for like a high fat one. Usually the first two, like the milk and the cream, are going to be found in a can. Make sure, like usually I buy my cans from Thrive Market or Trader Joe's, but just look at the ingredients, make sure that all that's in it is like the coconut milk or the coconut cream, no additives or anything like that. And that's going to be a really high quality one for you. No added sugars, definitely not. And then coconut yogurt, there's a brand that I listed below called Cocoa Yo. If you're intolerant to dairy, but you still want the benefits of yogurt, like the probiotics and things from it, then that's a really good one to look into. It's also really yummy. It's got like this thickness, but also like this fluffy and airiness to it. I like to add it to smoothies or just eat it as a meal. And then full fat, raw organic milk is hard to find in a lot of states. So I would suggest looking into your state for like what they do on that. There are some really good websites where you can find raw milk, and they'll basically, it's like a directory for every state where you can look up and find like where you can get this from. But basically, like the benefits to this are that like when it is raw, all of these different enzymes that help you break down the lactose that's in the milk is still in the milk, instead of like when it's pasteurized, it's highly heated. So all of these enzymes, which are doing the work for you, are killed off and filtered out, which is why probably a lot of people have issues with milk. If you want more info on that, I would highly suggest looking into Weston A. Price. He has like a book, an online website, like a lot of different resources that go like way deeper into this. And honestly, if you go to his site and look up milk, I think they have that milk directory as well. And then nut butter. So similar to the nuts, except it's going to be broken down. If you do have problems with nuts, this might be a little bit easier because it is broken down more. It gives nice flavors to different meals. This can be considered nut and seed butter. So I've got sun butter right now, which is sunflower seed butter. And I'm adding these to like Asian-y dishes, and it's tasting really good. So nut butter is something that you can add as well. All right, so now we are on to the meats, the grass-fed and grass-finished, like I said before. Honestly, this is just a list of options because I feel like a lot of people just get into this mindset that there's like only chicken, there's only beef, there's only eggs, that's it. But in reality, there's a ton of different proteins and meats that you can choose from. And then within that animal, there's also tons of different cuts of meat that you can get. And I just wanted to bring people's awareness to this because you aren't limited. And yeah, if you find one that you really like I do, love me some ground beef, and I could literally eat that for almost every meal, especially if you add an egg to it. But not everyone is like that. So getting out there and trying these different cuts and stuff like that, I think is really beneficial in finding what works for you. So I've got on here beef, fowl, poultry. Poultry would definitely include chicken, turkey, and duck. But I've listed it out below, so you could just consider it chicken. There's pork, if it's heritage breed, which basically means that it's of a breed that's not been like tampered with and fed like a really poor diet. Like a lot of pork that's out there is basically fed like trash and feces, and you want to avoid that at all cost. But if you can find like this really high quality pork, then it can actually be very tasty and very flavorful and a good addition to your diet. Lamb, bison, turkey, duck, ostrich, venison, super lean, super good. especially if you get some good cuts. I really enjoy the back strap. We wrap that in bacon a lot. Ones that we get from Butcher Box. And then eggs, honestly, like I know that a lot of the stuff can be a lot of money. And if you don't have money to spend it on organic, everything grass fed, everything grass finished, that's okay. But what I'm going to say is make sure the eggs that you are buying is pasture raised and organic if possible, but definitely pasture raised. So lots of companies can put cage free on them and like all these different things, brown eggs, like there's honestly no difference between a brown egg and a white egg. The difference is what's inside of the egg. So you want to make sure like buying pasture raised means that the chicken was raised and they were able to roam in a very big grassy area. They likely weren't fed like a corn-fed diet. It's probably like a higher quality diet. Cage-free basically just means that they're still in a cage, but the cage is open. But they're still like surrounded by lots of other chickens and things like that. So just be careful of that. Same thing with the poultry, but definitely with the eggs. And the test that you can do is like if you buy one box of pasture raised eggs and then one box of like cage free or just organic or like something that's not pasture raised, and you crack the yolks and you put them side by side, the pasture raised one will be more orangey, which is what you want. Like the more orange, the better. And then the other one will likely be like super yellow, maybe palish. That is definitely not what you want. So make sure you're buying those high quality eggs because that's going to make a lot of difference, even if you can't buy like all grass fed, grass finished. Bone broth. Everyone asks me what this tastes like, but it's honestly tastes like any other broth. You can add it to soups. You can drink it straight up. I like to make elixirs with them, but sometimes I'll just use it as the base to my smoothies. And you can't even taste it in the smoothie. So it's really fun to like put them in ice cube containers, put them in the freezer, and then have like little ice cube bone broth things and just put them right in the smoothie. It's super easy. And you get your bone broth in, which is super good for gut health. But there's honestly a ton of benefits to bone broth. And like some of the other things that I've recommended for people is like cooking your oatmeal in it, cooking your rice in it, cooking your roasts in the slow cooker in it. That way you're getting it in and it's not more difficult for you. Like you're basically just adding it in a way into something that you're already doing. Organs, obviously, I know not everyone is going to want to eat these organs straight up, but liver, kidney, heart, and brain, there's obviously other organs that I would definitely suggest looking into. But basically, if you've ever taken a science class, you've heard that like supports like, which basically means the same thing will support that thing. So in the case of organs, like liver has been found to go straight, if when you're eating liver, it's gone straight to that person's liver. And it's basically like helping support the liver, recreate the liver by like adding new cells and things like that to it. So that's honestly amazing. And if you can't like eat them straight up, or if you don't even want to figure it out, I would highly suggest looking into something like Ancestral Supplements or Paleo Valley to get you a supplement that you can take every day or every other day so that you're getting in those organ complexes without having to actually eat them. And I've got those names down below so that you can look into it as well. Then we come to seafood and wild fish. If you look into Dr. Jack Cruz et al., these are kind of like the end all be all because they are so high in omega-3s and in particular DHA, which is highly, highly important in converting vitamin D from the sun into the usable form in our bodies. And honestly, what I would recommend is if you don't know the sourcing, try and go with the smaller fish because the smaller fish are eating less other fish. They're mostly eating like algae and things like that. So there's less risk of it being like high in metals and mercury and stuff like that. But these lists right here, I tried to list out as many of like the pretty good ones that you could go with. shrimp, mussels, crab, clams, lobster, oysters. Again, if you listen to Dr. Jack Cruz, oysters like his top 3 food because of the DHA and omega-3 contents. He says that, I haven't looked into this yet, but he says that the oysters omega-3 profile is even higher than like a grass-fed, grass-finished beef, which is honestly like pretty amazing. So there's that. Wild caught salmon. If you look into Seatopia, which I've got listed below, they're trying to do this really cool thing with farming fish where it becomes more sustainable and it's not like a bad practice. So like I would look into them if you don't want to get wild caught fish, and or if you want to support the environment better. But anyway, black cod, mahi, herring, faring, that's funny. Mackerel, which is usually I buy that canned, sardines I buy canned, anchovies I buy canned from Wild Planet. And there's this one brand called King Oscar that they do like this Mediterranean mackerel, which is like extra virgin olive oil, olives, and spices. And it's so good. Like, and these are something where you can like add to a salad or wrap up in some nori wrap and make like a super simple, fast lunch or dinner or something like that. Tuna, got to be high quality on that one because of like the mercury levels and things like that. I would say if you can wild caught, but Seatopia is changing my mind. So look into them, look into like high quality things for like kind of best results on that one, or just like limit the amount that you eat. Honestly, like if you can't find a high quality one, don't eat it every day, maybe once a week, just so you're being mindful of that. I could honestly eat fish every day. I know some people are like, oh yeah, 2 or 3 times a day or 2 or 3 times a week, but like, I don't know, I could eat it every day. Powders, these are just going to be some things that might make it easier for you. Bone broth powder, collagen and gelatin. Great Lakes is my favorite for that. I make my own Jello. I make smoothies out of them. Honestly, like a really high quality whey protein. Keon just came out with a really good one. I have digestive issues and it did not bother me at all. And honestly, like I mixed it with water and it tasted like a freaking milkshake. So I didn't put whey on here, but that's definitely one to look into. Hemp protein, pea protein. Be careful with both of those, especially the pea protein. There are some really high quality ones out there, but make sure if you can, like try and find a like a third party testing from whatever company you're buying from, because pea protein has been found to have like really high levels of arsenic. Anyway, so yeah, there's just a few other powders that you can get, and those are just powders, like protein powders. They're not flours, which I've got more down below. And then I'm not going to list out like every single vegetable, but there's a lot of vegetables. I'm pretty sure this is not every single vegetable that you could find out there. But honestly, what I would do is, like, if you're going to go by my 3 vegetable guideline, I would do like pick 1 green vegetable and then 2 others that are different colors. That way you're getting in multiple colors of the rainbow into your diet, which is highly important for getting in multiple kinds of nutrients. And nutrients meaning like vitamins and minerals. So, and then like just because of different flavor profiles, you want to be able to add some things to your meals. Like I am a person who definitely eats for function, but I also love combining different foods and finding different flavor profiles. And like, honestly, I just love cooking. And if you're not one of those people, that's totally fine. Like go buy the frozen vegetables. Like I buy frozen vegetables too. And just make it easy for you for your function and think and like what you need it for. But if you do like mixing different things and trying new things, or just trying different vegetables together and different flavor profiles together, I would definitely highly suggest doing it in that way. So yeah, if you don't want to do that, like safest bet is to just pick 3 different green vegetables and pick one for every meal or one for every day. Yeah, there's more down here as well. Then we're getting into low sugar fruits. Basically, if you've never heard of this, there's low glycemic, or there's a glycemic index, right? And basically what that means is when our body, when we are fasted, and we only eat like this one food, this is how much it's going to spike our blood sugar and our insulin. Now, usually my rule is like, you don't want a huge glycemic variability, which basically means you don't want to be spiking it over and over and over again throughout the day. Or if you do spike it, you don't want it to fall back down super quick. You want to be able to spike it and kind of like slowly it tapers down. And that's going to be like a really good response. A lot of people think that there's like a lot of things that are being put out where like glucose is bad and insulin is bad. And honestly, like it's not bad. It's just like the dose is the poison, right? So basically what I've done is put the low sugar fruits here. They're like the lowest on the glycemic index score in terms of fruit, and lowest in sugars. Berries are probably going to be like one of the highest, well, like one of the lowest ones. So like highest selection for like if you're going to try and eat fruit throughout the day. I wouldn't recommend that. But anyway, yeah, and it just gives you like this nice sweet flavor without adding too many carbs or sugars to your diet. But there's lots of other ones on here. Cucumbers, tomatoes, watermelon, like these are all ones that are super high in water, which is going to be so important for you because if you've ever checked out like my hydration, optimized hydration stack guide, then you'll know that water is best absorbed when it's structured. So like, excuse me, if you've ever seen a crystal lattice where it like you look at it and it's just like structured so perfectly, that's how water is in our bodies. So it's already, that's how we want the water to get to be when we absorb it. And it's already like that in these like high watery vegetables and fruits. So I definitely recommend those, and those are going to be really good, especially during summer. And then starchy veggies, basically that means that they're higher in carbs, therefore higher in sugar. As carbs are sugar, they turn into sugar in our bodies. But compared to the other list of vegetables, these ones are going to have higher amounts of carbs per serving. Honestly, like winter squash is not that high compared to like a sweet potato or a potato. But yeah, so these would be like, this would be for me considered a carb versus a vegetable when I'm going to the store and buying my carbs. Whereas a lot of people are like, oh, carbs are breads and pastas and things like that. No, we want to switch that. That's not even going to get it into that, but these are the carbs that I'm talking about. Now down here, I'm going to get into a little bit more carbs. So legumes, things like lentils, beans, lentils, beans, and peas. I like to buy like BPA free organic beans in the can, that it doesn't have anything but the beans and like salt, I think, or I think I buy no sodium ones and then add my own salt. But these are like a lot of the stores that I go to, they have like really good deals on them. So this is when I would stock up, and then I would just rinse them and then re-soak them and then rinse them again before I cook them, just to make sure like none of the extra stuff is on them, because you really want to be able to soak and sprout your nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, so that your body can absorb them and use them the best they can be and not like have any digestive issues with them. So soaked and sprouting is something that I like to do with those. And honestly, it's not that hard. Like all you do is basically get a mason jar, you fill it with whatever you're soaking, put some water in, leave it for a few hours or a day, come back, rinse it off, and then cook it. Super easy. And I don't want to get too much into that today because we're just going through this Pantry Essentials guide. So yeah, then we've got ancient grains, which is they're grains, but they've not been messed with as much, like through GMO processing or like adding a lot of chemicals and like things like that to the crops. So that's why our bodies can absorb them and use them better, because there's just not as much crap on them, or there's not as much crap that's been done to them essentially. So these are good ones to play with. I would maybe try one new one like every month. I personally don't buy these all the time. I like to stick with the starchy vegetables, but that's going to be totally person dependent. Then for the rice, I love white rice. My husband and I both love jasmine rice, but honestly, like this it's like forbidden black rice. That's probably like our absolute favorite. There's just like this really nutty texture or flavor about it, that it's just like so delicious. And if you just add like a little bit of honey to it, oh man, like out of this world good. And then gluten-free oats, that could be rolled oats, that could be steel cut oats. Again, you want to make sure those are soaked and sprouted. And then parsnips. That's more like a starchy vegetable. I'm not sure why I put that there, but it's there. Then we've got sweeteners. I tried to stick with like basically the sweeteners that are going to be closest to nature as possible, because I'm not a huge fan of processed things. So natural stevia, basically like the extract only, is going to be one of the higher quality things. Dark chocolate, the darker the better. And by that I just mean like there's not as much sugar, there's not as much like glycemic variability going on there. Plus dark chocolate can be really good for you in terms of like your mental state. It can add a lot of magnesium to your diet, which is super essential. Magnesium helps over like 600 different processes in the body. So that's cool that you can get it from dark chocolate. And then carob is very, very similar to chocolate, except for some people, they are intolerant to chocolate, but they still want that flavor. Honestly, it's like a little bit bitter compared to dark chocolate, but I think it adds like a really nice flavor to things. Obviously, I've put the fruits again. A lot of these are going to be like the higher sugar fruits, higher glycemic index fruits, and then raw organic local honey. That's going to be a really good one, especially for like allergies, and just being like acclimated to your environment is adding like some of this honey, which is pretty awesome. And then raw maple syrup. Don't add a ton. Oh, raw molasses. I didn't put that on here, but that's, or not, like just like a blackstrap molasses is really good as well. All right, and then I've got extras. So these are the things that I would put in my pantry. I don't use every day. Sometimes I don't even use it every single week. But if you like these things, then these are the options that I would go with. So pastas, I would look for like a black bean, a chickpea, brown rice, noodles, or miracle noodles are honestly like super, super good. And they're going to be, there's like, let's say you have like a cup and a half serving of these noodles is like 2 grams of carbs. So it's a really good way to get a lot of volume in, but not a lot of calories or carbs or anything like that. So I'm a huge fan of that. There is a company called Miracle Noodles, and they've got all different kinds of noodles and flavors and things like that. So I would highly recommend them, but the actual noodle is like a cognac noodle. So if you can't find the Miracle Noodles, they do sell like this cognac in the refrigerated section at the store. And then flours, almond, cassava, coconut, arrowroot, tiger nut, tapioca, garbanzo bean. Honestly, like if you're an online shopper, there's like a site just for flours, which is pretty cool. But now a lot of these health food stores or just stores in general are adding a lot of these different ones. So that's really awesome, to get away from the more monocropped, like wheat flour, white flour, processed flours that are out there. And these are just like really good replacements for them if you are baking or require some sort of flour. I've at time kept like 3 or 4 different ones in my pantry. Right now, I think I have 2. So like if I want to make pancakes or if I want to make like some sort of dessert, then I can mix them together, or I could just choose one. But yeah, this is something, the pastas and the flours and the lentils, the rices, those are things where I would like buy one time and it should last you like a lot longer than that. So yeah, then I've got beverages, coffee. Coffee is like one of the highest toxin and mold infested food products that you can buy. So I'm try to be a huge stickler for high quality coffee. Like not only make sure it's organic, but try and make sure that it says some of these things like mold tested, mold free, toxin free. If you can't find that, like email them or look on their website. If it is local, that's awesome. It's that doesn't always mean it's the best. So like just I just want you to be more aware. That's like even if you can't change it right now, just please be more aware because a lot of these things like the shitty coffee that you're drinking could be leading to the shitty energy that you have or the shitty results that you're experiencing. So just be really mindful of that. You can honestly drink any kind of tea. When I drink tea, I like it to be non-caffeinated because usually it's because I'm trying to do like a coffee fast or I'm getting off of coffee for a little while. Matcha is really delicious, especially from the Strong Coffee Company. Sparkling water and mineral water. It's going to be highly uh, hydrating. Yes, hydrating for you. I get more into that in my optimized hydration guide. But those are really good additions. And I like adding like a lemon or like a squeeze of lemon or a squeeze of lime to those to just give it a little bit more flavor than it's already got. Gerald Steiner. I've got a list of good brands on my hydrate optimized hydration guide. But yeah, Pellegrino, Gerald Steiner, really good ones. And then down below, I've got some really good measuring tools that you can use. So if you don't want to weigh and measure everything, when you're trying to figure out portion sizes, this is a really good way to do it. So basically, like the palm of your hand is about how much protein you want in a serving. I would say for raw food, so before it's cooked, it should be about this big because it does cook down and get smaller. Then the carb is about a fist size. Um, and then the fats are going to be like 2 thumb sizes. So I'd probably go from like the bottom of your knuckle, oh, not in screen, the bottom of this knuckle up to the top. That would be like 2 serving sizes. And I mean, that's just like a general rule of thumb if you're not like trying to get into the super specifics of how much you're eating. That's like generally how much I would go off of. And then based on the time of day, I would change up maybe a little bit like how much you're eating here and there. And then I've just got a list of brands that I love. There's some right here, some right here, and then there's more down here. There's honestly like, this is not a comprehensive list. There's so many different brands that I like, but these are the ones that I go to over and over and over again and will consistently buy from them just because I know they're high quality, they're delicious, they're nutritious, and their sourcing is really on point, which are all things that are super important to me, and they should be to you too if you care about your health. And honestly, like the taste and quality of your food, the higher the quality of the food and the better the sourcing, like the better your food is going to taste. It's it's just the way that it is. So like I would definitely highly suggest looking into these brands. And obviously, like I said before, like don't try and change your whole pantry or your whole refrigerator all in one go. Like buy one thing at a time. And then over time, what your pantry looks like and what your fridge looks like is going to change. Um, I will say that when you are planning out your weeks, like we talked about in the beginning, if you are going to the grocery store, but you want some of those higher quality meats and you can't find them at the grocery store, like what I would do is look into US Wellness Meats, Butcher Box, Grassroot Co-ops, Seatopia. There's one called White Oak Pasture that I don't have on here because I haven't tried it myself. And then there's one other one in Texas. But anyway, these are all companies that will basically freeze and send you these really high quality meats. So usually we'll do this maybe once a month and just get meats that I can't find in the store. So like US Wellness Meats has really good organ sausages that I just absolutely love. Like they add the seasonings to it, they make it into like a little sausage, and you can't even taste that it's like the organs. They're honestly so good, and the only place I can find them is on US Wellness Meats. There's nothing else added to it, and there's like you can buy liver mush and stuff like that at any store, but there's corn in it, cornmeal and corn cereal, and like all these different shitty ingredients that I don't want to be eating. And this, they provide just like straight up organs and really high quality seasonings from herbs and spices. So like what I would do is maybe a week in advance, plan for the next week if you want to do one of these boxes. And then when you go to the grocery store, just buy accordingly so that you're not buying more meat and things like that. Honestly, I don't think I put Thrive Market on here, but Thrive Market is like so amazing. I don't know why I said it like that, but it's basically like a Costco meets a Whole Foods meets an Amazon. So super high quality. You can go on there and like, if you're vegan or vegetarian or gluten-free or like any of these things, you can put in the filters and it will populate with all of these different food items that they have that go according to your nutritional strategy. So it's really cool. I don't shop on there a ton. I basically like go on there for like super staple things that will last in my pantry or in my fridge for a long time. So like Primal Kitchen, sauces. I'll get my sushi nori wraps on there. They've got this coconut cereal meat that is just like honestly so good. Like I used to love cereal when I was growing up, and this allows me to have cereal and not be guilty or about it or feel like I'm fucking up my body because of it. Sometimes I'll get it's cereal, so I put the milk in, and then sometimes I'll add like some blueberries or some honey, and a little bit of cacao nibs. It's like the best dessert after dinner. But yeah, so that is my Pantry Essentials Guide toolbox walkthrough. Oh, I've got it on another note. If you want to make your meal planning and meal prep easier for you, first of all, use the guide that I talked about in the beginning by planning out everything, but having frozen veggies and things like that available it's been like so key for me. I love chopping vegetables, I love cooking, I love doing all those things, but it does take time, and sometimes I just don't have that time. And sometimes I just want it done for me. So I will buy frozen things. And like it lasts longer. So even if I am buying fresh produce and I cut it all up and don't use it all, like I will freeze it and use it for later use. That way I'm not wasting food. The other thing is, if you can afford it, buying pre-cut things is obviously a time hack. You don't have to cut all the things, you just have to cook them. I don't like to do that just because it's stupid for me to buy it. Because like I do usually have time to cut things up, and I don't want to spend the money on that. I could be spending it on other things, but if that's you, like that's totally fine. That works for your life, like do it. The other thing is like, I love my air fryer. I love Instapot. We do have a slow cooker still. Like honestly, I have like every kitchen gadget out there, but if you just invest in one of these, it will make your life a whole lot easier. You can cook a lot of things faster because you're doing it at the same time. So you don't have to wait for like one thing to finish in the oven to put the next thing in. Like you can cook your chicken wings in the air fryer while you're cooking your Brussels sprouts in the oven. And it is just 10 times easier, 10 times faster. And honestly, the air fryer just makes things taste so much better. But the Instant Pot is fun too. Like last week I made a roast, and all I did was I put the roast in, covered it in salt, pepper, and put a little bit of water in to cook it in. When I took out all the meat, there was still like obviously like a little bit of the fat from the meat and then the water left. So then I just put the rice that we were cooking right into that, and it it made the taste of the rice like way different than it normally is because it had like a little bit of that fat from the roast. Oh man, it was so good. And like the Instapot was key for that. I'm sure you could do the same in the slow cooker, but I haven't tried it. And then yeah, like have a plan laid out for your week before you go shopping. And I know this takes time. You're going to have to make time for it, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. Um, because in the long run, it's going to save you money. It's going to save you time when you like the last thing I want you to do is go to the store, buy all this stuff, come home and be like, I have no idea how am I combining all of these ingredients? Like, that's not what I want because then the food is going to get wasted. You're not going to eat it. You're not going to use it because you have no idea how to use it. So going in with a plan before you go shopping is going to be key for everything. And it's going to be key so that you don't have to go back to the grocery store in the middle of the week if you don't want to. And freeze extras so that you're not wasting food. Also, one other thing is take note of what you already have so you don't overbuy. I've seen so many people where they're like, oh, okay, like they get to the grocery store and tell me like, oh, I don't think I have any more Greek yogurt left. Like I better get another like big one of these. They get home and like the one they had was like barely even gone. So they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm eating Greek yogurt for every meal this week. So I don't want you to be that person unless you really love Greek yogurt. Don't overbuy because that's never fun. Because then you're left figuring out what you're doing with all the extra. If you can't freeze it, like you can't really freeze Greek yogurt. But yeah, so that is my Pantry Essentials Guide toolbox. And I hope that that empowers you when you go to the grocery store and when you're planning out your week. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Because when you can do this, this honestly leaves so much room for more energy because you're not focusing on this every single day. You've already got the meals that you're eating for the week laid out and even prepped out. And there's space left in your brain for other things. And that's honestly like part of what energy is all about is like having the space in your body, in your brain, to do things. So I hope this is helpful. I had fun doing it for you. And yeah, let me know what you think.